Hello guys, buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Welcome to yet another exciting Spanish video. Today we're going to talk about an important topic that I would say is not too complex, but you will need to memorize a few little words. Los artículos definido e indefinido, or definite and indefinite articles. As usual, don't let grammatical jargon confuse you or scare you. I'll explain very clearly what I mean by this. Okay? So we're gonna start just like the last video, remembering that we already talked about one of several very important groups of words that we're gonna study. Those are nouns, right? And nouns are the words we use to name things, living beings, places, and ideas. And since I'm narcissistic, I already told you that in the last video, but I'll never stop telling you. I'm going to use exactly the same example. What is the noun in this fragment of a sentence? You already know, right? Professor is the noun. That's the word that refers in this case to a living being. That is our noun. But I also want to think a little bit in this video about the other word in this fragment of a sentence, the one that comes before professor, the, right? What is that word? Well, that little word is the article. What is an article? Articles are very small words that precede the noun. By precede, I mean they come before the noun and they qualify it. What does that mean? Well, it just means that the article provides us with a little bit of information about the noun. What kind of information? What do I mean? Well, let's see. Let's think about the difference between saying the professor, which is what we just did before, or a professor. Clearly, there's a difference, right? Not just a difference in the form of the words, but also in their meaning. What is the difference in meaning? Let's think about it for a little. Well, if I tell you the professor's bad, you'll immediately ask me, what professor, right? I don't want to take a class with a bad professor. Tell me which professor are you referring to? Because it's clear that you're referring to a specific professor, right? Because you said the professor. Now, what if you just say a professor is bad? A professor is bad. Well, that's kind of a weird sentence, isn't it? The reaction would be like, what do you mean? Or why are you telling me this? Like, of course, like some professor's bad somewhere, but why even have a conversation about it if we don't know what professor we're talking about, right? So both a or an and the are articles, right? Little words that come before the noun and give us some information about it, okay? But they're different. Their meaning is different. The is the definite article. Definite because it defines the article as something specific, right? It tells us, okay, I'm talking about one specific thing, one specific professor, one specific book, one specific student, college, table, cup, what have you, right? Whereas a or an is the indefinite article. And that's the one that tells us that we're talking about something in general, right? A book is a good thing for the soul. What book? I don't care, right? I really believe in books being good things for the soul, so I think that any book would be a good thing for the soul, right? I don't mean some specific book, I mean books in general. A book, any book, right? That's the difference between definite and indefinite article. Again, in English, the is the definite article, and a or an is the indefinite article. Why do I say a or an? Well, just very briefly, you don't say a eagle, you say an eagle, right? In English, you have two versions of the indefinite article, but just one. of the definite article. That's English, right? Let's move on to Spanish. Okay? Let's start with the indefinite. We said that an is the indefinite article in English, right? And that you have two variants, right? Well, in Spanish, I guess we could technically say that we have two as well, un or una, but actually we kind of have four. Don't freak out though, let's look at this little table carefully. I'm using two nouns from our vocab list, right? Libro. What did that mean? I hope you remember. It means book. And also puerta, which means door. These two nouns follow the rule for the genders that we studied last week, meaning libro ends in O, so it's masculine. Puerta ends in A, so it's feminine. That's why I have them classified in two neat little columns. Libro in the masculine column, puerta in the feminine column, right? That's the first big classification we have here, masculine and feminine. Now look at the rows. The first row says singular. Remember what that means from the previous video? Singular means that the noun refers to just one thing. That's why we have libro in there. Whereas the second row, plural, means we're referring to more than one thing. That's why we have the plural form of the nouns, right? Both of them end in vowels, so both of them have S at the end when they go plural, right? So I have masculine and feminine in the columns, singular and plural in the rows, right? Now, let's look at the articles, not the nouns. For libro, we have un. And for libros, we have unos. What does this mean? Well, I just told you that this is the indefinite article, right? That this means, you know, some, or a, or an, right? So, un libro means a book, some book somewhere, a book. Unos libros means some books, right? Sorry, some books. What books? I don't know, just some books, right? Un libro, a book, unos libros, some books, right? So I use un for masculine singular nouns. Okay, nouns are masculine and that refer to one thing. And I use unos for the plural, for masculine nouns that mean more than one thing. Now let's look at puerta. Okay, those are feminine, right? For puerta, I have una, that means a door. So una is the indefinite article for feminine singular nouns. And then for puertas, the plural, I have unas. So unas is the article for feminine plural nouns. In short, we have four versions of the indefinite article. Why? Why so many? Well, because in Spanish, we don't only have singular and plural nouns, we also have gender in our nouns, right? And if you recall, in the video that we talked about gender, I insisted that it was very important that you learn this because it determines a lot of things in the language, right? So this is the first thing that it's going to determine. It's going to determine which article you use, right? So you got to keep the gender of your nouns in mind all the time when you're speaking Spanish, okay? Again, un is the indefinite article for masculine singular. Unos is the indefinite article for masculine plural. Una is the indefinite article for feminine singular. Unas is the indefinite article for feminine plural. Memorize this, but much more importantly, understand what it means, right? All of these, un, unos, una, unas, all of them are the equivalent of a or an or some, right? They just mean that we're referring to something indefinite. Now, what about the other article, the definite article? Well, I'm sure you saw this coming. We have 4 versions of this. Whereas in English, you only have one. You only have the, right? The book, the books, the table, the tables, the college, the colleges, the student, the students, whatever, what have you. Everything is the in English. English is so simple in that regard, but Spanish is not, right? But you already know why we have 4 versions, right? It is exactly the same division that we had for the indefinite article. We have masculine nouns and feminine nouns. And we also have singular nouns and plural nouns. Let's look at the articles here. For masculine, singular. For libro, we have el. Right? What does el libro mean? It just means the book, right? I'm referring to one specific book. For libros, I have los, right? So los is the definite article for masculine plural nouns, los libros. What does that mean? Just the books, right? For puerta, I have la. That is the definite article for feminine singular nouns, right? For feminine nouns are referred to one thing. La puerta, the door. How about puertas, doors? Well, las puertas, the doors, okay? Those are the definite articles and indefinite articles in Spanish. Again, memorize these little tables, but more importantly, memorize what they mean. The definite article, el, los, la, las, that means the. The indefinite article, un, una, unos, unas, that means a, an, or some, right? Okay? So let's look at the exercise that you need to complete. It's like this. You have a little table with words from, mostly from the vocab list that we studied, okay? Not all of them, though. I think just one of them, right? Plantas. So you need to think about the articles here. I give you a word. First, you think about the gender. Determine whether it's masculine or feminine, right? Then think about whether it's singular or plural. And then go look at the table and give me the correct article, both definite and indefinite. I'm gonna give you an example. Puertas. So puerta. What does that mean? That means door. And does anyone remember what gender doors are in Spanish? You do not? Well, let's look at the ending of the word and apply our little rule. Remember, puerta ends in A. What is our little rule? Remember, this has many exceptions, but in this case, the rule is correct. Puerta ends in A. Words that end in O tend to be masculine, not the case with puerta, but words that end in A tend to be feminine. Yes, puerta is feminine, doors are feminine. Okay, we have the gender. Now, puertas, is that one door or more than one door? Clearly, it's more than one door because it has the S. So this is feminine plural. Okay, now we can think about the articles. What is the indefinite article for feminine plural? You got to go back to your table, right? Hopefully at some point your table will be in your head, right? But for now, just go to the table. And what do you find for feminine plural? Unas. Unas puertas. What does unas puertas mean? Some doors somewhere, right? Now, same thing but for the definite article. What does the little table tell you about this? Definite article for feminine plural. Las, right? Las puertas. What does las puertas mean? The doors. I need you to complete this table, right, with all the other definite and indefinite articles. Remember, think about both gender of the word and also whether it's singular or plural. Thank you guys. Hasta luego.